Gab Talks by the Independent Press Award. I'm your hostess, Gabby Olzak. To participate in the 2025 book award competitions, please visit independentpressaward.com and New York City bigbookaward.com. On this episode of the Gab Talks, we're speaking with Sam L. Feldman, author of Hookups, Hiccups, and Happenstances, erotic short stories from the sexual revolution, a distinguished favorite in the 2025 Independent Press Award in the romance category. Sam received his BS degree in business administration from Rider University in 1962, where he met his lovely wife, Nancy, whom he married in June 1963. The two worked side by side from 1977 until 2008 when Nancy retired. Sam began an insurance and financial planning career in 1962. He's the owner of CFK Life Plans, Inc. Sam held a highly successful stint as a scholastic basketball coach from 1962 to 1971. His insurance and financial planning career continued over 6 decades. As an expert and mentor in the field of long-term care planning, he was requested in 2000 from the $1 Million Roundtable Center for Productivity to write his first book, When Caring Isn't Enough, which sold 6,000 copies in a year and a half. Amazing. The book is a useful tool for experienced agents and anyone who is worried about aging and its effects on the quality of life. Upon his retirement, Sam was inspired to pen Hookups, Hiccups, and Happenstances. Sam joins us from upstate New York, where he lives with his wife, Nancy, raised 2 children, a son and a daughter, and they are also the proud grandparents of granddaughter and 2 grandsons. Congratulations, Sam. It was great to meet you and Nancy at book camp in May, and it's wonderful to talk to you today.
Thank you, Gabby. It's wonderful to be with you again, too.
It was quite an intro. And Sam, before we get started and talk about the book specifically, you said that I want to talk about your decision after retirement to write this. You're a very handsome gentleman of a certain age, very active. You work out every day with Nancy. You play pickleball. I know you went over to the other side from tennis, but we love it.
Yeah.
And you said you were torn between 2 topics, coaching basketball or sexual fantasies. So how were you inspired to write 13 steamy stories set in the sexual revolution?
Well, it was a tough choice, but where's the bigger readership going to be? And I think it was an obvious answer to me. So there was a story that I felt had to be told, and it involved the sexual nature. And unfortunately, it had dire consequences. So the whole book is not dire, believe me. But I did want to get that story out. And at first, I thought this would be a excellent Netflix or maybe an Amazon Prime story, an hour. And then after I wrote it, it just sat there like a little pea on a big ironing board. And I thought I need some more content to beef this up, so I'll write 5 stories, and then it went to 10, and went to 12, and that's it, 12. In the middle of one night, I went, oh my God, I have to write this. And so in the morning I said, honey, I got a 13th story. She said, you can't. I said, why? She said, it's 12 or 14. You can't do 13. That's unlucky. But I stuck to 13, but it was the last story was always going to be the last story. So it got tucked into between 10 and 11. So that's how it evolved.
Well, for Italian Americans, the number 13 is lucky. So I think that it's your lucky day for sure.
Thank you.
Hookups, Hiccups, and Happenstances, as you said, there are 13 stories set during the sexual revolution during the 1960s and the 1970s. And it's told through the experiences of your protagonist, Butch, who you describe as chick bait by women and a hero by his buddies. So tell us, so folks who are watching get an understanding of the setting, and also mostly let's start with the protagonist. How did Butch, your main character, come in and arrive in your imagination?
Well, first of all, it is a period piece. And so the sexual revolution of the 60s and 70s was an important time for women. So women gained a lot of freedom in the bedroom and outside the bedroom. A lot of the gains for women that were gained at that time, unfortunately now are being attacked. And when I wrote the book, which was published in 2023, the very first line is, these stories may never be told again. And the very last line is, don't let them take the joy out of sex. So what did I mean? Well, what I meant has come to fruition. The presidential election has done what I foretold, because the Conservative Party now has taken a big hold, and they have what's known as Project 2025 as their manifesto. And Project 2025 wants to take away the women's right to have a legal abortion, to have access to contraceptives, to ban the morning after pill, to take away the woman's right to no-fault divorce. And then on top of that, they want to fine and jail authors who they deem their definition of pornography, authors, directors, and producers. So those two lines in 2023 have now come about. And I think it's important that that part of the story of the book gets told. The book has references to personalities and events that occurred during the 60s and 70s.
Well, that was one of my follow-up questions. So as you said, it does happen. You bring up a lot of topics and a lot of people and personalities and events that actually did happen. So how much of the book is fictionalized?
They say in fiction there's truth.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I'll let it go at that.
You'll let it go with that. We'll use our imagination. So, you did, the sexual revolution was a time of liberation and upheaval, sexual liberation, change. How did you choose to ground Butch in particular in this story? What is it about Butch that made him a character that we would want to follow for 13 stories?
Well, he had a lot of he loved women. He was married, but he loved women. He loved the women's causes. He liked things that were fashionable, let's say, and so it became a natural thing to have him be able to express those desires. And a major part of the book is talking about communication sexually, very important. And then miscommunication has its consequences. And there is the one story in there that I previously mentioned where a doctor betrayed some people, and that had dire consequences. I've got so many thoughts that are.
Well, I have a question about Butch. So there are some real life personalities in there. Today, who is there a person that comes to mind that you would compare Butch to?
Not really. Butch happened to be a lucky guy, and his buddies told him, "You're a lucky guy."
Yeah.
So I think there was one. I don't think there was one statement in the book where Butch was having sex on a toilet seat, and the thought crossed his mind. His buddies used to say, "You get more ass than the toilet seat." He thought.
And that right there was the fact, wasn't it? So how did Butch evolve across the stories? He was a guy's guy, but he was also a chick magnet, as you said. How did he evolve emotionally, sexually, or otherwise in the course of the story?
Well, there's 5 out of 13 stories. There's 5 that have what we would call today E&M, or ethical non-monogamy, which is a very popular topic today. I think surveys in the U.S. and Britain and Germany say that 30-40% of couples are interested in non-monogamy, or you'd call it ethical non-monogamy. So that became an important part of the story to bring it into today's lexicon of sexual adventure.
Ethical non-monogamy, for those folks that don't know what that is, what is the definition of that? Give us an example.
Well, it's for married partners to be able to have sexual relations outside of the marital contract. W-
So Butch had a good relationship
between
with his wife.
partners, they can both have it, or either, but they agree that having a sexual contact outside of the marriage is not a deal breaker. It's part of what makes their marriage work
Their
and
marriage
happy.
work.
Yeah.
Exactly. What would you say? You said communication before. Would you say that that is the strong theme that runs throughout all 13 stories?
Yeah, definitely, it's a strong thing. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think Butch would say about today's dating world and what's happening today?
Butch would be overwhelmed. Inconceivable to Butch at that time in his life that you could pick up your iPhone and say, think I'm really horny tonight. I think I'd like to get it off. And within 5 minutes, contact somebody, and within a half hour, meet somebody. Uh, that would be unbelievable. So
So
back then,
technology has changed everything.
changed absolutely everything.
Yeah.
So back then, it was meeting, and then one word led to another, and then people ended up in a situation. But you weren't able to screen people or tell them, this is what I'd like to do. How about you?
But yet it was a little bit more personal, wouldn't you say?
Well, absolutely personal. Yeah.
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 It's so everything today seems so anonymous.
Yeah, totally. And again, for an 86-year-old, it's kind of inconceivable that that's the way it works. And I'm not condemning it. I'm not saying it's the worst thing in the world or the best thing in the world. It is what it is. But maybe it was more fun back then.
Do you think so? I mean, you just said you're 86 years old. You experienced that as an adult, the sexual revolution. Do you think that it was more fun back then?
Yeah, I personally, I think it was more fun back then.
Yeah.
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 It was,
More
it was
was it because
whatever.
it was new?
Pardon, Gabby?
Was it because everything was so novel and new and personal versus today, which is nothing is new. Everything is out there,
Right.
everything is impersonal.
Yeah. Yeah. Butch meets a psychic, and a psychic had brought him into her realm. And if she asked him, do you believe in psychics? His answer was possibly, but deep inside, the answer was no. But
No.
the psychic had a major impact on changing his mind to, yeah, Butch definitely believes in psychics. Yeah. And then there's another situation where there was a meeting in a lounge, and a woman told Butch she'd like to, I'd love to go to bed with you. And Butch says, well, there's a motel right next door where I'm staying. And she said, I can't. I'd like to, I can't. Butch says, I don't understand. And she says, well, I had a double mastectomy, and I haven't been with a man since then. And I can't do it. And then the story goes on from there, how Butch felt the compassion to be able to have this woman have the experience she really wanted.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a beautiful story. So, Sam, erotica can be incredibly intimate to write, obviously. How did you balance the eroticism with the storytelling? And how do you know when a particular scene that you're writing or story that you're writing needs a little bit more or a little bit less? This is a totally new genre for me. So explain it to the novices out there how you balance that.
The only way I can describe it is it is what it is, or it was what it was.
Mm,
And you know, talking about Project 2025 and banning pornography. What's pornography? This is a romance book. This is a romance book with
okay.
okay, but it's the real spicy details that takes place in romance or sex. So, it was told as a story should be told. Let's not sugarcoat it.
Right, like it should be told as a story would be in real life. I love that you said that it's a romance because I don't want folks out there to think that this is going to fall under the line of Project 25 because well, it wouldn't anyway because we are not conservative. But it is a romance story. Let's talk about consent, power, and pleasure. These are all different themes that are run throughout as a thread in the stories. How do these themes play out in Butch's world, and how do you see them in the world today, and how they connect with women?
Well, in Butch's world, it was empathy.
Yeah,
Feeling the other person, feeling their thoughts and their desires.
the story with the woman with the double mastectomy, for
Well,
example.
correct, but there
Yeah,
were other stories. There was a story where I wrote about Butch being in a lounge. Again, Butch traveled. That was a big part of his business, and being in a lounge one night and having finished his meal, and he was walking to the bar to have a drink, and a group of women said to Butch, "Well, where are you going?" And he explained he was just headed to the bar, and they said, "Well, sit down, have a drink." And it turned out that these were a group of women who had just finished their Weight Watchers meeting,
oh wow,
and before too long, they had hooked Butch up with the queen for that night. She had lost the most weight from their last meeting, so she was wearing the crown and the sash, and
that's great. That's
yes.
great. What do you think that readers can learn from the sexual revolution?
Oh, the gaining of women's freedom. The women of the 60s and 70s who were of the, let's say, the ages of mid-20s to their 30s, their mothers had taught them sex is, you know, sex is taboo. Sex is,
Taboo.
yeah,
Yeah,
have children. Outside of that, their mothers and grandmothers were like, uh, just shake their head at sex. It's be careful. It's again to procreate and just for your husband or your mate. Of course, today we talk about marriage can be both sexes to with each other, but back then we're talking about the traditional way. Um, so that was breaking barriers when
yeah.
women could feel that they have a sexual encounter and not have to wake up with being pregnant from that because of what gains they had made broken through the barriers. And now, again, it's under threat today. So a woman today is not right now today, but if those attacks on women's rights are taken away, those attacks are taken away, a woman can't feel free to have sex because the consequences could ruin her life if there are unintended consequences.
Sam, what do you think that we, and I'm speaking on behalf of other women, what do you think that we can do that the women of the 60s and the 70s did? Um, what can we do now to prevent that from happening?
Well, band together, just the way it was, and a lot of it became from legislation.
Yeah,
So you've got to get to your legislators, and unfortunately, there's this great divide today. Back in my time, opposite sides could talk, they could negotiate, they could work things out. Today, it's like black and white, and
yeah.
it's unbelievable. Personally, I had an experience that could not be replicated today. I'll try and make it short, but I was an enrolled Republican at the time. I'm independent now, enrolled independent. But at the time, I thought about running for office, and it would have been as a Republican. Coincidentally, I got a call by the Democrats. We sat down, and they said, "We'd like you to run." And I
Yeah, I
said,
read
"Well,
that story. Go on.
okay." So
This
I'm
is great.
thinking of running, but I'm a Republican. And they said, "If you change your party to a Democrat, we will endorse you." A
Hmm.
week later, unbelievably, I got a call from the Conservative Party. Sat down in the same diner the next week from the week before, and they said, "We think you should run for office." I said, "Well, I'm thinking about it, but I'm a Republican." And last week, the Democrats even said they'd endorse me. And the Conservative chairman said to me, "If you run, no matter if it's a Democrat or a Republican ticket, we'll back you."
Wow.
In the end, after some thought, because the business, as a very successful business, was very busy, I decided not to run. But you couldn't have that situation today, and it's a very sad commentary.
We're
That
regressing actually in every single facet of our society, aren't we?
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
It's a sad commentary. What do you hope that people will walk away with, folks, women, men? What do you hope they walk away with after reading this romance?
Satisfaction of the way the story evolved and the way it ended, and it's kind of what goes around comes around, but in a good way.
Yeah,
Um, so hopefully they would enjoy the ending and say, "Well, that was cool." Uh, but then again, we talk about today's society, where it wasn't back then. We didn't know what ethical non-monogamy was. It didn't
right.
have a label. But today, people might have a more curious look and come to some conclusion between a couple that, maybe this is something we can live with. We don't have to worry about getting a divorce because one of us wanted to have a sexual experience, and that made an end to a story that didn't have to end. We had a successful marriage for
Yeah,
5, 10 years, and now because of sex, it's going to blow up. Well, if you have a conversation before even we get to that point, what our desires are, how we've evolved in our marriage, it might be a happier long-term marriage on a different scale than it was traditionally.
communication. Again, communication. Um,
Correct.
I mean, how realistic is monogamy? um, to be with the same person for the rest of your life. For some folks, that works. But like you said, maybe reading this book, there will be folks out there that a light bulb will go off and they'll think, gee, maybe this is something that I need to explore with my partner. I think that's great. Opens
Yeah.
up a lot of options for people.
Sex
How
and
did it
sex
change?
and love are not the same, but they can
Exactly.
be. For some people, they can be exactly the same, but they are not the same. And so it can open up a whole new world for people to discover that we don't have to take the old tradition, which again, I'm going to come back to the politics of today. There's a desire on people of a certain bent who want to take women and put them back, with an apron back in the kitchen with raising children, and that's where they think they should be.
Right. I just finished watching the TV series The Handmaid's Tale. Did you read that?
No,
Read the
I
book?
haven't. No.
Okay, well, it's this town Gilead that these maniacs were the architects of, and we were back in the time, like you just said, when women were just there to procreate. And the handmaids, that was their task. They had absolutely no other rights. And, books like this make us aware of what was. You talk about what can be and different options that folks do have. I want to talk about how it changed your perspective, Sam, writing all of these 13 stories. How did it change your perspective on desire, identity, freedom?
How, probably being able to put it down in black and white. That was a very freeing experience for me to be
I
able to
bet.
take these thoughts and then again see them in black and white and then say, hey, other people might enjoy what you've just written. So that was a life-changing experience for me.
That's
And
and
the
what
feedback
has
has,
the feedback? Yeah, what
yeah,
has the feedback been like
yeah, the feedback has been very positive, and that's very heartwarming.
from women? Do you hear from a lot of women?
Yes, from women and men. Yeah.
That's
So
great.
some some women have wanted their husbands to read the book.
Yeah, give them some ideas. That's great.
Correct.
I love that. So I know, Sam, that you are donating a portion of the profits of Hookups, Hiccups, and Happenstances to suicide prevention. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, that goes back to the very first idea that a story had to be told. And when I talked about a doctor who had betrayed his patient, and which consequently led to his patient betraying the other side of the sexual relationship, and it was very sad to have that experience. The doctor wanted to teach Butch a lesson for having sex outside of his marriage.
Marriage, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So that really resonated with you, the story that you write. Was that inspired by something in real life that you had heard about?
that was inspired by something in real life.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So a powerful message, and that's wonderful. Thank you for doing that. So will we be seeing more of Butch? I feel like you have more stories in you, Sam.
Yeah, there are more stories, but the goal right now and the emphasis for me is to get Butch out into the world. And by that, I mean I'd like to have a Netflix or an Amazon Prime series done on the 13 stories. There's a thread throughout the 13 stories, and a great conclusion from the first story to the end. And I think it would be. I've seen my wife and Nancy and I do date night every weekend.
Love
And
it.
so date night is going out to dinner, going to a movie scene, a rom-com, something sexual, something light and fun, and then follow that up with some cocktails at a local lounge, and then finishing off date night with sex. And
Great life.
and that's so important to our life and to our being, and hopefully it's done wonders for us to be stay healthy as one of the components. So I think it would be a good TV series.
I
And
agree.
an idea I have is that there's different women in each one of the 13 stories, to have actresses take cameo roles. I think that would be cool.
That sounds fantastic. Are you working toward that right now? Are
Uh,
wheels in motion or?
That's my goal, and I'm taking steps every day to try and make that come to fruition.
That's wonderful. Well, we look forward to that. Well, I have to say, you and Nancy are inspirational. You're a gorgeous couple. Had so much fun meeting both of you at book camp. So, lastly, Sam, share with us and folks out there who are watching and listening, where can we, and hold up the book, I want everyone to see the cover. Where can folks purchase Hookups, Hiccups, and Happenstances?
You can go to
Okay.
samlfeldman.com, and you'll be able to find it on Amazon, um, a Kindle, audiobook, and we're looking for other outlets for distribution as well. So
Get out there, folks. Buy it, read it with your spouse, read it with your boyfriend, your girlfriend, whomever. It's a lot of fun. Sam, this was fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, Gabby, thank you. And I just love to be with you again. You light up a room. That meeting you at
Aw,
the conference was great.
that's how I felt about you and Nancy. It was so great to meet you. Can't wait to
Thanks.
see you again, hopefully next year at book camp in May. It would be fantastic. So thanks for joining us. Look forward to your next adventure. Maybe we'll see it on Netflix. This is your hostess, Gabby Olzak of the Gab Talks. Until next time, keep on reading.